Welcome back to Get Down to Business. Joining us today is a heavy-hitting marketing executive and corporate strategist who has spent his career fighting for consumer attention at the absolute highest levels. He is the former Global Chief Marketing Officer for Toys R Us, the former Chief Marketing Officer of Serta Simmons Bedding, and the current founder and CEO of Shadow Branding. He's the author of the powerful new book, Notes from the Brand Stand, Thoughts on Emotional Branding from Someone Who has Fought for Consumer Attention and Won. Today he joins us to expose why customers don't buy what your business says, but what your business proves. He's here to share how leaders can look past raw awareness metrics and instead secure what he calls share of heart, the deep human connection that keeps brands alive when markets shift. Welcome to the show, Warren Kornblum.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Warren, you have steered marketing operations for massive global retail powerhouses like Toys R Us and Serta Simmons Bedding. Your core thesis is that customers don't buy what brands say, they buy what brands prove. When you look at the modern corporate landscape, where are companies most frequently falling victim to what you call the promise problem?
Well, I think that the biggest issue is that a lot of companies think that all they have to do, and not the company, it's the people who are running the marketing and leadership of the companies, think that all they have to do is say something, say they're sensitive to some philanthropic causes, say they're sensitive to the environment, say they're sensitive to customer service, and that because they say it, it's done. Well, that's just not how it works. What matters, and all that matters really, is how their customers live, eat, and breathe their time with the brand and their experiences with the brand. So I think that the promise culture is something that is easy to get wrapped up in if you're a leadership person at a senior at a company, but it's also a very slippery slope if you don't deliver on the promises you're making. And sometimes the best promises aren't the ones that you verbalize, they're the ones that you just deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time because I actually proposed to my wife at the Ferris wheel of the Toys R Us in Times Square. And you were at the marketing helm of Toys R Us during its absolute peak, and you witnessed the early warning signs of its decline. So, what did that specific experience teach you about how even the most iconic, beloved brands can slowly lose their way?
Well, I think that, well, first of all, congratulations. That I can't tell you how many times people have told me wonderful stories like that. And that was really what we were trying to do with the Times Square
Yeah.
store. The brand was tired. I mean, that was in a time, it was the early 2000s. It was in a time where Amazon, Walmart, Target, eToys had all challenged a legacy business that had been virtually the undisputed leader for 50 years. All of a sudden, a lot of competition, a lot of changed habits of how people shop for toys. And the Times Square store was really our way of saying, this brand is not dead. It's not fun anymore. Let's come up with a global statement brand. And the Ferris wheel, a lot of people thought we were absolutely out of our minds to try and put a Ferris wheel in a store, but it was a great statement that the brand was alive. And actually, Shalom, it actually became the number one tourist attraction for families in New York in its heyday. In terms of what can happen, I think legacy brands can sometimes just assume that they are always going to be what they always were. And that's just not true because customers change, habits change, the way people shop changes. And I think legacy brands and leading brands have to move with that change and stay ahead of it and realize that the most important thing isn't their history, it's their customer.
Yeah. And you contrast companies that lost their stands like Sears and Blockbuster with the resilient reinventors that adapted and survived. When a legacy business realizes it's fading, what separates the leadership teams that successfully pull off a comeback from the ones that collapse?
Well, the first word that comes to mind, and I'll probably catch some trouble for this, but the first word is I think leadership teams can sometimes be arrogant and
Mm,
think that, this is not going to change and people are just always going to need to come to us. And once they have the habit of shopping with us, that habit will never change. So I think that's one. I think the second one is that the lack of realization that things do change. Another example, I mean, you mentioned, and they are in the book, you mentioned both Sears and Blockbuster, where obviously two different reasons there. Sears tried to dynamically change their business and did not move with the times and realized that things were going to be different, and you can't just keep taking money out of a business. You have to reinvest it in for the customer experience, either online or physically. Blockbuster, obviously, technology changed, the way people have access to watching things changed, and they didn't move with that time. The one that I love talking about, as to me the most stunning example of that, was Kodak. I mean, Kodak invented, as I understand it, the digital camera, and then executives said, well, if we do that and we put it out there, we're going to lose our film business. Well, guess what? You lost your film business and you lost your business for the most part.
Right. Yeah, so true. And I have to ask before we cut to break, with AI, data analytics, and hyper targeted algorithms driving almost every marketing decision today, how can a leadership team aggressively leverage data without completely stripping away the human connection required to win a customer's loyalty?
I think that the answer is in the question, to be honest. If
Mm,
algorithms control everything and it's all based on a machine equation, which I think is a very powerful enabler to give information. But at the end of the day, there has to be human connection. I'm actually going through it personally right now with a major credit card company who I have had their premium card for decades. Literally, I don't want to give my age away, but literally decades. And they their retention offer was about 1% of what their competitors were offering for me to switch over. So,
mm,
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's not a machine made that decision, not a human being. A human being would have valued the time spent with it. And I think that that's where the difference comes in. Humans need to
absolutely.
take the information and make a decision.
I'm going to continue my conversation with the author of Notes from the Brand Stand, thoughts on emotional branding from someone who's fought for consumer attention. And one, we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Get Down to Business. Continuing my conversation with the one and only Warren Kornblum, who once again was the Chief Marketing Officer of Toys R Us, former Chief Marketing Officer of Serta Simmons Bedding, and the current founder and CEO of Shadow Branding. We're chatting about his new book, Notes from the Brand Stand. Great conversation. Warren, I know that at the absolute core of your framework is the concept of a brand stand, what a company stands for when it's highly inconvenient. For the mid-market CEOs and business owners listening right now, how do they practically define their brand stand without letting it just turn into a generic corporate mission statement?
Well, I think that again, the brilliance of your questions is you're giving some of the answer right in the question. One of the first things I do as a advisor and consultant to companies is I'll always walk into their reception areas, and inevitably, whether it's a doctor's office or a store or a provider of anything, most places have a mission statement sitting in their lobby. And the first thing I do is I ask people in the company about the mission statement. And there's three things that happen. One is people will recite it verbatim. I worry about those people because that's memory, that's not belief. Two, they'll say, what do you mean we have a mission statement? Or they'll contradict it. Or three, they will passionately tell you what their business stands for, why they're a great place to be, why they're a great place to have loyalty to. Those are the people I want working for me. And I think that any mid-market business leader should ensure that not only he or she has passion, but the people that deal with their customers do as well.
Amazing. Very interesting. So we have many lean entrepreneurs and startup founders that are listening who don't have a multi-million dollar Fortune 500 budget. What's one low-cost strategy that they can deploy this week, start earning what you call share of heart?
I think that again, I don't want to sound monotonous here, but I am such a believer in it. It's about the customer. You're in business because you have customers you feel can support your business. You have customers who you think you know what they need and want from you, how they want to shop. Focus on the customer, whether it's one or whether it's 500. Make sure it's about them, not about you, because you have no God-given right to be in business and make money. What gives you that privilege is the people who are loyal to you, and you have to earn that loyalty every single day, every transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And my last question before, of course, we send people to your book and get in touch with you because this is a fascinating read coming from a fascinating professional, Warren. I appreciate again you're joining us over here. Is what is the one bit of advice that you have for folks that again it probably ties to what you just mentioned a moment ago. for that person that's realizing that their brand identity has become entirely transactional, it's sluggish and price dependent, is there one more tip that you want to leave them with for tomorrow morning?
It's almost like if you were sitting at a dinner table and trying to convince a family member or a friend why what you're doing is relevant and important to them. Think about them. Think about what it is that is going to appeal to them, that is going to make their life simpler is probably a big overstatement, but it's going to make their journey easier and cause them to not only think of you and think of you first, but to really think of you almost as they would a person, a friend. I
Mm,
think brands are like people in many ways. And if you can break it down to how do I get someone to have an emotional connection with what I'm doing, believe in me, fulfill their promises to them, I think that's where you start to break ice.
absolutely. The book is Notes from the Brand Stand, Thoughts on Emotional Branding from Someone Who Has Fought for Consumer Attention and Won. Warren, how can we find the book? How can we get in touch with you?
Well, the book is available anywhere books are sold online for sure. Everybody tends, or not everybody, a lot of people, that's for Jeff Bezos, I guess, but a lot of people tend to go to Amazon. Um, but it's also available at barnesandnoble.com and basically anywhere online books are sold. And as far as getting in touch with me, my website is www.shareofheart.com, all spelled out. And the third is for businesses who would like to get in touch with me. I am active on platforms like LinkedIn as well as my website, and I'm more than happy to talk to people and respond to them. I believe in business. I'm passionate about this, and happy to help in any way I can, especially the little people trying to get ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Warren. That's a wrap for us this week on Get Down to Business. To success, let's get down to business. We'll see you next week.